I saw you at the Pride and Remembrance Run last June, and I was
Slowly.
Yeah, well, I was struck because you arrived at the race and you didn't have any handlers around you. You didn't, you just arrived, Olivia Chow, on her own. And I'm curious to know, who have you become since the passing of Jack? Is there a different?
No different.
Same
No
Olivia?
different.
Any?
I was first elected a long time ago.
Yeah. 1991.
No, 85.
Oh,
I
yes,
was a
for school trustee,
That's
yes.
right. And I've never been, there's no difference whether I'm city councillor, school trustee, and MP. There's really, same person. A lot older, but grayer and maybe wiser,
Yes.
but certainly a lot more friends, which I love. Because when you are in public service, you get to know a lot of fabulous people. And when you do a campaign together, even way back when in 1985, on the school board after the death of Cancella, which is the librarian that were gay bashed, I have friends that date all the way back then that I still know, with Tim McCaskill, for example. So part of the journey is having lots of friends and angels around me.
You've been a huge friend to the gay community since those early days on the school board. You fought for sexual orientation being in the curriculum. You fought for a gay and lesbian bi youth hotline. Why have you fought so hard for the gay community? I'm kind of curious about.
It's a matter of equality, justice. It's about, when we're talking about gay marriage, it's about love. It's about individual freedom to choose, to love whoever you want and be whoever you want to be and be proud of it. I started when I spoke to a lot of gay students that were being bashed and they were pushed out of their school. And I thought, well, kids can't learn being bullied, being harassed, being physically violated, etc. So it's a sense of justice at the time. As I got to know the community more, and one of my closest friends, Bob Gallagher, who during the bathhouse raid was there up in the front, taught me a great deal about love. And how the community came together to deal with death of their lovers through AIDS. That central message that love do conquer death. I learned so much during that period, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then the whole question of rights, the rights of your lover or your spouse or husband, your wife, have always contributed. And if that to CPP, for example, why can't you get that benefits? If the person is sick. So it's a question of rights, equality, justice, love, all of those things mixed in.
Let's to get to some issues, maybe a little bit on the nitty-gritty level, facing the gay community, the gay village, Church in Wellesley, whatever we call it.
The village.
The village. Number of
steps.
issues. Yeah, number of issues facing the village that perhaps you talk about strength, maybe undermining the strength of the village. For instance, the invasion of the big box stores that has zapped a lot of vitality out of Church Street. A lot of the stores are suffering low walk-in traffic and et cetera, et cetera. A number of stores are empty. What is the balance that the city should strike between the big box stores and this kind of the local shopping emphasis that would make the village the village?
I'm not as familiar with some of the local issues.
Yes.
And as a member of parliament, so I'm not as familiar with it. But when I was on city council, I recall, Walmart or Canadian Tire, they're big box that wants to come into the downtown area. It's a different way of life. It's smaller stores, there's a sense of community, of being connected. Whereas a bigger store is, yes, it might be more convenient, but it's less personal. Also, it's about walking versus cars. With big box, people tend to, if you buy a lot of things, you need some way to carry it, right?
Yeah.
So it's more of a car or automobile.
Right.
Sometimes when people are really rushed, they want to get one place and buy a whole lot of things, but you lose that sense of community. So ultimately, I think protecting small, independent businesses are really important, because that's what creativity, that's where personality and where community connection really can be fostered through small businesses.
Yeah.
Which is why I've always said small business come first.
Small businesses come first.
Because Church Wellesley, it's the way back. It's the second cup, right? It's the that corner.
Well,
right?
suffering,
and the Woodies and the establishment.
Yeah.
That those small.
Well, it's also suffering. Are going to be facing sort of an invasion of condos that over the next 5 to 10 years could completely change the fabric of the village. Now, something like 50% are young gay men living in rentals, and 5 to 10 years now might be young families living in condos. I mean, we've seen a lot of neighborhoods in Toronto undergo transition, but I'm just sort of curious, should the city have a role or in balancing that, or what is a community to do?
When I was a city councillor, I've always wanted to have a balance. It's always about a balance. What makes a great neighborhood? It's balanced between different families, different individuals, but also small businesses, the parks and the community centers, right? The 519s of the world. So it's every component. The more diverse a community, the stronger it is, our neighborhood.
Right.
So I think diversity and and comprehensive approach to planning is what's matter.
The Ontario Public Service Union and unions in general have been very much on side in terms of fighting for equality in the workplace and same-sex benefits, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
And OPSU is obviously not keen on the outsourcing of city services. And I'm kind of curious, what do you see as the balance or proper balance
You're using the word balance. It's a good thing. There are services that are critical, that they're public services delivered by public. But if you look at a model like 519 Church, you have, at the time when it was really growing, Kyle, which is the local councillor, you have the community through the community board, and you have public servants through public funds and run by, but it's a tripartite. So you have the public servants. In that case, it wasn't employed by the City of Toronto, but there are other community centers that are, with the community and with the elected representative. So in all our public services, we can't just have the elected representative and the people delivering the service without the public, without the participation of the people. So in my ideal way is that how can we bring all three sectors together? That's what makes the service the best kind.
Right.
So yes, public service, public servants, but also we need to make sure there are the folks that are volunteering, the folks that may be being supported by a foundation or private companies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that model at all.
And now, I think that the one of what has to be the most important issue facing the city, transit, which is not necessarily a gay issue, but I think it's a gay issue because I take the transit.
So do I. I took a streetcar here on College Street.
And some of the store owners on Church Street tell me that they can't. It's not a given whether somebody shows up for work or not because
because they might be stuck in the subway.
Yeah.
I know.
Certainly, getting to work on time is a massive, massive issue. A lot of gay folks live in the downtown core, don't necessarily have cars or want cars. What are we going to do to fix this mess? What do you think should be done? Because you're working on the issues in Ottawa as well.
Yeah. I think we need to stop talking about it and move forward and actually get some things done quickly.
Right.
Do it now. Right? Because there seems to be just nonstop debate.
Yeah.
Part of it is that there's no overarching plan. Once there's a plan,
but then you
for
throw
God's
it out.
sake,
Somebody gets elected and you throw out the old plan.
I mean, that makes any sense, right? You just end up wasting time, wasting energy, wasting talents, and wasting a lot of money. Stop debating and talking about it. Just get on with it. Even more buses, okay? I don't care what mode of transportation it is, just as long as public transit, just get it done. I think that's how I always push. So I started.
So you're going to say subways, or light rail, light rail.
It doesn't matter.
Gay
bus.
Gay buses.
Hey. I've started a campaign a few years ago called I Heart Public Transit, and now it doesn't matter which level of government, what party, everybody is saying that, we need to invest in public transit. Okay, which is a good thing. Okay, now as to what mode, we can debate that,
Right.
but I think we should stop debating it and just get on with it. And whatever can bring the maximum number of people out there now would be the best way to go.
There is one question that I haven't asked that I think is probably most dear to
We're
your
good,
heart.
okay.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
we're
where
good,
your
we're
time
good,
is.
we're good.
A third of all kids in Toronto are living in poverty. A lot of the gay and lesbian youth, bi youth, who are leaving home, running away from home because of issues still, ending up in Church Street, requiring help. What would you like to see done?
Well, way back in 1985-86, right? I started the anti-homophobic curriculum, training teachers and trying to make sexual orientation as a ground that you cannot discriminate, etc. Right? And few years later, John Campy picked up the torch, and then the Pink Triangle program running out from MCC was great, right? But Helen Kennedy and Yigal with the Gay Straight Alliance again, very helpful. But let's come to the core of it: is how can we support families? How can we provide the counseling and support before the kids have to run out? How can we provide the counseling and support, whether it's again by youth hotline? Now the hotline is not getting a lot of support either, right? They need a lot more support. So that kind of comprehensive support needs to be in the school. Having Gay Straight Alliance is great, but what about the guidance counselor? Are they really helping? Where do you go for help?
Right.
And then that question of poverty. How do you assist families that are struggling, living in poverty? How can we make life more affordable? And those kids that are out in the street, can we not have more shelters, more homes, more affordable housing? Because my gosh, trying to rent a condo, it's so expensive. How can we come together and have more affordable rental so that there's less vulnerability, right? That you put in all your money on food, on rent. There's not a lot left on food. So there's really several different layers, but poverty, counseling, family support, finding ways in the schools, more affordable housing, all of that. But a lot of it can be directed by some of the young people on the street,
Yeah.
because they're the best allies. So the solution is not from me or you or some whatever. I think a lot of it really needs to come from them, because the grounds up kind of solution is always the best kind. Most relevant to their lives, most effective, rather than a top-down model.
Right.
So ignore everything I just said and ask the same question to
See what they have to say.
yeah,
What do they
it's
need?
very much so, yeah.
To change the situation.
I think
Great.
the key thing is we need to listen also. Their pain and their solutions.
Right. So apparently 30% of homeless youth are LGBTQ. Issue in the neighborhood is to develop a gay and lesbian, bi youth home for homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. The shelter needs to be, the service needs to be comprehensive. It's never just about shelter.
Right.
It's shelter, counseling, support, looking at ways. Sometimes it could be drugs or that kind of support, treatment. Sometimes it's about going back to school or learning a skill or finding a job.
Right.
So not just shelter, but a wraparound service,
Okay.
and also assisting in finding affordable housing, right? So that kind of support is a continuum
Okay.
from the streets to finding a home, finding stability, dealing with the issues, and then getting set into their lives. So I don't think the concept should be just shelter. I think it needs to be
Okay.
a whole continuum.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's very much needed.